Now say it clear. Refugees are welcome here. Now say it clear. Refugees are welcome here.
Student activism is on the rise in the wake of the 2016 presidential election. From protests, voter registration drives, and to the uglier side of demonstrations like riots and violent protests, student activism has become increasingly common since the last presidential election cycle began in 2015. The student protests at the University of Missouri in 2015, student participation in the February 16th A Day Without Immigrants movement, and student activism across the nation calling for college presidents' resignations or campus policy changes are just a few examples of ways student activism is making a comeback. Dr. Cindy Castaneda says peaceful student activism is a vital part of the American political system.
If when young people, and students of all ages really, are in college, they're not taking the opportunity to practice, exercise, and utilize their rights, then there'll be no one to speak in the future. Everyone will just be silent, and we won't have people to challenge society and assumptions and issues that maybe not everyone agrees with, but no one is willing to put themselves out there. So I think student activism is really important for our political future.
Castaneda, a government professor at Eastfield, encourages her students to be politically active and involved in the legislative process. However, she says that violent demonstrations only harm the points student demonstrators want to make.
You don't just want to be disruptive in your activism. You want to do the attention raising, but then move that into a discussion which you hope will turn into a negotiation for which you hope the long-term outcome will be a policy change. It can't just be about protest and disruption and throwing trash cans that are burning through the windows of the classroom buildings. That's not productive.
Castaneda, who was herself active as a student at Harvard, believes that student involvement in both politics and campus issues is a good way to influence policy change and impact decision-making.
They can be active in lobbying their elected representatives to try to get them to do whatever it is the student thinks is the right thing to do, pro or con. But I don't think it's limited, or should be limited, to the classroom or the campus.
While groups like Eastfield's chapter of the League of United Latin American Citizens have been involved in political protests off campus, students have not held on-campus protests in about 10 years.
They're expressing their frustration and they're using their First Amendment rights in media without actually getting together collectively for collective social action. And I think you can have 10,000 likes or 10 million likes and something can go viral. That's not necessarily going to change policy or change attention as much as 10,000 people standing in front of a place asking for a particular policy outcome. So I think technology has increased the awareness, but it's gotten to be thinner rather than deeper, which is a trade-off.
Student activism can go beyond protests and demonstrations. In the months approaching the 2016 election, student groups organized voter registration drives. After the passage of Campus Carry in 2015, the Student Government Association offered Q&As and town hall discussions to gather opinions and suggestions on how to select gun-free zones. Daniel Mejia, a student at UT Southwestern, was at a political march on February 19th, not as a political advocate, but to help register voters for upcoming local elections.
Anytime that there's a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of outrage, it tends to, increase voter turnout. But a lot of people don't know the rules about voting. I know, at least with the primaries, a lot of people went to go vote without being registered. I don't know if that changed any results, but it certainly was bad for the people who wanted to get their voice out. So right now, I figure when everybody is at peak enthusiasm, this is the best time to get people registered and informed about their, voting rights.
Eastfield President Dr. Jean Conway recently told the Etc. she would welcome more student activism on Eastfield's campus.
It's a good opportunity for them to learn about how they make difference in the world. And by being politically involved, you get to learn how to do that.
Reporting for Etc. Media, I'm James Hartley.